In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you how you can create an alcohol ink and art resin vase, all made from scratch. So stick around, that's coming up next.
Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Art with J. Monteith. Today I am really excited to be bringing this particular tutorial to you. I've been dying to try this. I've had it in my head for so long and I just thought, you know what, I'm gonna give this a go. So this video is actually the first time I've ever done this. It's totally off the top of my head. So what you see in the video is actually the whole process the very first time. So I learned a few things along the way. And I'm glad to be back sharing this video with you because I was sick all of last week and I had a number of people asking, when is the next video coming out? So here it is. It's a tutorial on creating a vessel, and in this case, just like a vase, all with art resin and alcohol inks, and or you could use resin tint as well in this particular project. So I've had a lot of people comment already on the Facebook group that I belong to and on my Instagram page. How did I make this? So without further ado, let's go ahead and show you the materials that I used and how you can create this project. Okay, so for this project, the first thing you're going to want to do is to place a garbage bag over your surface and smooth it out as best as you can. And I'm just using the regular plain black Glad garbage bags, these ones. I find this particular type of garbage bag to work the best when you're working with resin, when you want to pull something off of it. It's a great surface, but again, if you have like a silicone mat or even wax butcher paper, then that will work fine. But for the price or the cost and for the surface area that you can cover, honestly, black garbage bags are the best. Okay, and then once you have your garbage bags placed down, whatever you're going to use for your surface, then you're going to want a measuring cup and then a stir stick of some sort. I'm just using a plastic knife. I mix all of my resin now in plastic containers. It's just much easier. I buy mine actually from the dollar store. I pick these up from there. So I can either toss them away when I'm done, or if I'm very good at cleaning my container out and letting it dry, leaving a little bit of a film, then you can peel it right out and then reuse the container. So I know in a few of my other videos I've used a glass container, but I've since moved up to using plastic. Okay, so I've got my containers and now I'm going to mix up a batch of resin, and of course I'm going to be using my favorite, which is art resin. And you can use whatever you like, but I do like this product. It's great. I've mentioned it numerous times in other videos. So this is a two-part resin, a hardener, and the resin itself. You need to mix equal parts of the hardener and the resin, and you need to stir slowly for 3 minutes. So I'm actually going to mix up a batch of about I'm going to say just 12 ounces here because I have other things to resin, so I'm just going to do a little bit extra. But you can determine how much you want to use by using the usage calculator on their website. But I'm going to go ahead and mix up some resin right now, and I'll be right back. Okay, I have finished mixing my resin, and again, it's really important to mix for 3 minutes and ensure that you have the correct accuracy for your measurements, 50-50. And don't stir too quickly, especially for smaller batches. If you're stirring really, really fast, you're gonna get lots and lots of bubbles. So just take your time when you mix. Now, the key to this particular project is we actually want to leave this in here a little bit longer. We don't want to pour it right away. As you can see, it's still really, really thin in the container here. So I'm actually gonna leave this and I'm gonna let it sit for probably about half an hour, maybe a little less. And I'm gonna just keep coming back and checking on it, just so I want it to start curing and thickening up a little bit, so that when I pour it out onto my surface, that it's not going to become really, really thin. So I'll just leave that for a while. And in the meantime, I can think about what it is I'm going to put in my resin to color it. Now there's a couple of different things that you can use. I recently received these resin tints from Art Resin. These are great. This is the Pearl Metallic line. It comes with a number of different colors. including, these are my favorite, the purple and the blue. You just want to make sure that you shake these up really, really well. So that they incorporate the pigment with the rest of the product. And then of course you can use alcohol inks. I like to use the Jacquard line, as you well know, the Pinata color series. So you can either use these or the tint. Now, if you do decide you want to incorporate both, just be aware that you need to actually mix them really well together, because I've tried dropping inks and then resin tints separately, and it will actually leave a film on top of whatever you're working on, especially if you're doing things like Petries and you like to drop, you know, the inks in there and then the tints or whatever other products you use. So just ensure that you mix those two together if you're going to incorporate both. So I'm probably going to drop a few colors of alcohol ink in there later, but I'm just going to leave that for like I said, about 20-30 minutes. I'll come back and check on it. Just make sure you do that. Do come back and check. You don't want it to obviously get solid in there. And depending on where you live, if it's, you know, a cooler climate, it'll take longer to set. If you're in a warmer climate, it won't take as long. So I'm going to come back, and once this is ready to pour onto the surface, I'll go ahead and do that. So I'll be back in a little bit. Okay, this has started to thicken a little bit more, so I'm just going to go ahead and pour it onto my plastic here, my garbage bag. And I'm just going to try and smooth it out as best as I can here. I think I've moved it around a bit, but we should be good to go. So I'm literally just going to pour it all onto the garbage bag. And I'm just going to kind of let it spread out a bit. So because it's had some time to set, it's not going to be as thin and, you know, move out as much. So I'm just going to continue to make sure I've used up all of the resin here. And then what I'll do is I'll add some alcohol ink to it while it's just sitting here. You guys can see that there. It's hard to see on the black. You can actually see my phone with my video. Okay, so I'm just going to throw in a little bit of ink, a couple spots, and maybe some purple. I do like the purple too. And what else? Oh, so I can find my yellow here. Here we go. Some yellow. Let me grab a toothpick here and just do some swirls. It's hard to see in the black, but it's the only way to do it here so that I know that I'll be able to peel it off. Okay. And I was just looking for some pink too. I wanted some pink in there. Okay, so you can see it's really thickened up quite a bit there. So I'm just going to actually spread it out here so I get kind of more of a round shape. And again, you want to make sure that your surface is level so that it doesn't all just go to one side. And then when this is dry or half dry, the next day we'll come back to this in the morning and we'll still be able to move it around a bit. And if we want to cut off some of the edges, we can do that. So I think that's looking pretty good. Okay. I'm just going to leave that now until tomorrow morning. All right. Now, if you do have bubbles, obviously you can torch them out too, so I might just do that quickly. You want to make sure you do this really, you know, fast over the surface. You don't want to hesitate too long over one area. Okay, I'm going to leave that and we'll come back tomorrow. Cover it over too so that you don't get any dust. Okay, it is the next morning and I had covered this over with just a frame and some cups on the side here. So now the next step is to peel this off of the garbage bag and move on to the next step. So that next step is using a plastic kind of container. You can use glass, but it's easier if you use something that's flexible, just in case you have issues taking the finished product off of the mold. So we're kind of using this as a mold, and I'm going to be putting another garbage bag on top of this and wrapping it. So you need to get another garbage bag and some sort of an elastic, and you need to cover this over as best as you can, meeting this in the middle and tying this off. So I'm going to be actually cutting this. So you get kind of, this is, we don't want it to stick, so we're going to put another layer of the garbage bag. That's why we're doing this. And I'm just going to cut off the edge, the end here. So just cut this off to the side. Okay, so now I just have a little bit here that I'm going to tie off with just an elastic. Like so. And that's going to be sitting like so. In fact, we're actually going to flip it over this way to weigh it down, but this is, you get the idea here. Okay, so because it's the morning, it's still pliable, we can literally peel this off and you can kind of see the colors there. So now it's just a matter of molding this to our container. Okay, so you want to have some good elastics on hand, like some sturdy ones, so that you can actually wrap around here. So I'm just going to, because I've got one hand here, just going to grab a couple of these elastics that come off, you know, like vegetables and stuff, and wrap this around. So you're not going to be able to see this because I'm kind of, I only have one hand, nobody here to help me. So again, okay, so really it's important that we get the surface down, and I'm going to try and do a couple of layers on this. I don't know if this will hold up, but it's really important that you get it nice and tight. Okay. All right, that is super tight there. Okay, so you can kind of see how the sides are going to form. It's going to be actually really cool. And I think I'm actually going to leave it like this because it's kind of funky looking. But like I said, I'm going to weigh this down. So, because we want it to be flat. All right, so now we've got our flush surface here. And now I'm just going to put a couple weights on this. Just want to decide if I want to trim the edges here or not. I don't think I do. It's kind of neat. Okay, so let's weigh this down with something. And no, you can use pretty much whatever you want. I'm probably just going to use a heavy board here and then place some books over top of that, or even if some weights, anything to weight down so that you can ensure that the bottom of this is going to be nice and flush. Then we'll leave this for a number of hours just so that it fully cures. You don't want it to be pliable when you come back. Then we can cut off the elastic bands and we can remove this, and it should come off without any issues. Okay, it is the next day. I have just removed the weights from my vase. It's now cured. So you can hear it's nice and solid there. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take off my wrappings here. I'm actually just gonna cut these off instead, easier. And hopefully this will come out okay. Take this part off. So that's why it's important to put in a plastic container so that if it's glass, you don't have any issues trying to take it off, because then you could actually cut away the plastic if you really, you know, needed to do that. So. And again, I've just got one hand here, so I'm just gonna try and pull this off to the side. Okay, so I'm probably gonna have to cut a piece of this away. All right, I ended up cutting all the pieces away, as you can see there. And now I've got my little container, which is really, really pretty. Now, here's the thing that I didn't anticipate, and that is when it was drying on the bottom, I did get some cracks on the side from it curing. So what I'm gonna do is just take some sandpaper, and I'm going to sand these down, and then I'm just going to paint over with some resin. So I just get a nice smooth finish here. And so I have decided to go ahead and pour a second layer of resin over top of this piece because I've A, sanded it down, and B, I just want it to have the cracks that I did create just fill in. So I've again covered it over with garbage bags, and I've just sat this or put it on top of a number of these solo cups, just so they sit really high, and then I can literally just pull it off when it's dry. I really want that finish to be solid, so that if I did decide to put maybe, you know, like a floral sponge in there with some flowers, I could actually do that. So just wanted to let you know that's what I've gone ahead and done, and I'm just going to now let this dry, fully cure again for another coat, and then I'll come back and I'll show you the finished product. Okay, so this is now totally dry, and I've taken it off these solo cups that I had on there with a garbage bag. It was sitting on there just with the other layer of resin. So now that has completed, and here you go. Here is the finished container, and I think it turned out pretty good. Now there's a couple things that I want to just recap. So this ended up being approximately 8 ounces of resin mixed up, and then the next day in the morning is when then I lifted off the resin to create the actual container or the vessel. So I'm gonna go ahead and put some floral sponge in there, and I'm gonna put some flowers in there. I'm gonna see how it looks with flowers in there. So I'm pretty happy with the way this came out the first time. The other thing I would recommend is that you don't put tight elastics around there. I think that's probably the issue as to why it cracked in certain places. So if you just tie it around with another black garbage bag, that might be the best thing to do. And then you could probably avoid having to re-resin just to coat over those areas. But otherwise, for a first go off the top of my head, I think it turned out pretty nicely. So I'll show you the finished look with the flowers in there, and hopefully you'll want to give this a go yourself. All right, I am just finishing putting the finishing touches on my arrangement here. So I've literally just put in a floral foam, a piece of the block, the green block in the bottom, wrapped it with a leaf, and then I've just started placing my flowers in there. So you can see it turned out fairly well. Hydrangea's not doing too well here, but the rest looks pretty good. So there you have it. There is the finished product. And yeah, this was super fun to make. I'd love for you guys to give this a go and let me know how it turns out. So that's it today, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, like, and share. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel for weekly art videos. And as always, I thank you so much for your time, and we will see you guys again next week.